Hello, and welcome to Soul Play. My name is Sarah Benoit, and I'm your host on this soulful adventure. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Soul Play. It's such an honor to have you here with me. I am thrilled to get this project off the ground and welcome you here on this enriching journey where we engage in meaningful conversations with extraordinary people dedicated to forging a brighter future and shaping a new earth. On today's episode of Soul Play, I am thrilled to welcome a true force of creativity and self-expression. Our guest today is Daisy Green, a captivating storyteller, lyricist, and fierce advocate for embracing vulnerability. Through her music, Daisy shares a journey of healing, spirituality, and female empowerment, exploring taboo topics with raw authenticity. Her unfiltered lyrics, set against experimental, multi-genre music, invites us to groove, move, and reflect on the depths of human experience. Daisy is a dear friend of mine, and today we discuss her journey of self-discovery, the importance of community and connection, and her transition to a healthier lifestyle. Daisy also shares her struggles with addiction, trauma, and mental health, and explains how music played a significant role in her healing process. Emphasizing on the power of creativity and authenticity, Daisy advocates for a more open conversation about mental health and healing, asserting that everyone deserves accessible therapeutic resources for enhancing emotional well-being and fostering better harmony with our thoughts and feelings. Without further ado, I welcome Daisy Green. Daisy.
Sarah.
Daisy Green, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You're my first guest on my podcast, and it's such a dream to have you here.
It's an honor to be here, to be in your presence. I'm so sorry.
For what?
I'm a little bit.
We all are, babe.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about it today.
Yes,
and normalize
yes.
the woo, I think, yeah?
Normalize the woo!
Woo!
Yeah.
Daisy Green.
Hi.
I've introduced you at the top of the show here, just so all of our guests know you, but I'd love to hear your interpretation. Why are you here? Who is Daisy Green? What's going on? Can you fill our listeners in?
My name is Daisy Green. I was thinking about my name today as well, Daisy Green. It's a very earthy, hippie name.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm stepping in finally into my full hippie, free, flower power essence that I was put on this earth to be. I'm finally allowed to express exactly who I am. And yeah, I am all about the love. Yeah, I felt a lot of shame for many years for wanting to experience such deep intimacy and love with people, and yeah, I'm finally experiencing that and connecting with people in such a real, deep, magical way here in Kapangan, in Pai, and yeah, even going back to the UK has been a beautiful experience. But what am I here for? I am here to create. I'm here to inspire. I'm here to heal myself, to heal others. And I believe we're all here for the same thing, to live good lives, good, healthy, happy lives. And it's taken me a while to get to this place. And music has been part of the journey as well, been a huge part of my awakening the past 2.5 years. It's really been my journey. Like many of us, during the pandemic was when things really started bubbling up for me, of like spending a lot of time sitting with the darkness, and I can feel that with many people.
An awakening of sorts.
An awakening, yes, you might call it that, yes.
Yeah. A lot to unpack there. Thank you so much for a glimpse into who Daisy Green is, and to give some context, we're here in Thailand where Daisy and I first met. I think landing into yourself, existing as you and connecting authentically with other people is something that I'm hearing, both that it began immensely, it sounds like, here in Thailand, and now you can bring it back with you. So this connection, I'd love to explore that further. Just to also give some context, Daisy and I met through music. So if I can kind of share how we met, was actually at an open mic. I had crossed paths with you before then, but the Daisy Green that I remember, that was fire, that was connected, that was this powerful, divine being, expressing herself so authentically. You were so vulnerable on stage. So it was an open mic night here in Copenhagen, and there was a guitarist who was backing you up. I didn't know it was your song. One Last Drink is the song, which soon you will be able to find on Spotify, I sure hope.
It's on there now.
Okay.
It's there, yeah.
Yes, yes. One single was released not long ago, but then the album came.
The album is out, but I hit a bit of a brick wall with the promotion, so it's happening now. It was just
what is time anyway?
Exactly.
Right?
It's on the internet. It's there.
It's there. So yeah, this song, if I can share a little bit about your history and perhaps some of this darkness that you speak of, was addiction, right? And consuming alcohol, and how influential that was in your life. And, I don't want to speak for you, but potentially, numbing out some things and really just a difficult time. I'll let you speak further to it, but I mean, we met there and I was like, Daisy, what? You wrote this song. Okay, you don't have a guitarist because this man was just playing a few, chords. Amazing, but you guys met that night, or, met that night on stage. Okay, I'm just going to improvise. So I'm like, first of all, I love you. Second of all, we need to jam. So then we meet, we jam. We're like, what are we doing? We just got to create a band. So from there...
the next week we had a band and we went to the open mic with a band. We were like, hey, we're Daisy Green and the Warrior Babes.
Woo! Yeah, we are.
It happened fast, right?
It was so fast.
Yeah.
Because it was flowing, and it was really, what a dream. It was so incredible. And so something I wanted to showcase today with you is really your powerhouse lyrics. They're unfiltered, they're raw. They get to the depths of human experience, which I think is like really easy to bypass because it can be so dark and so tragic and so, comedic and blissful and lots of things. It's the full spectrum, but you really touch on topics that are, very intense, such as alcoholism, suicide, mental health in general, tantra, social media, the influence of, meditation and just your internal psyche. So if you could elaborate a little bit more on you as a songwriter, a performer, please.
I started writing during lockdown. I was in Phuket. I had arrived in Thailand. I'd been in Bangkok for a couple of weeks and the whole thing just locked down basically. So we were never planning on being in Thailand. Oh God, it's this same boring COVID story, blah, blah, blah. But anyway... So yeah, we were in Phuket and I started writing. I have a connection to a collective in the UK called Ladies of Rage, who I have to shout out to. Ladies of Rage. They are a collective of female MCs, writers, lyricists, musicians, DJs, producers, and they have events and jams, and there's all these kind of collaborations going. But basically during the pandemic, during the lockdown, there was some kind of like so basically sorry, this is not going well.
It's going perfectly, babe. Sitting it.
I don't know what to call it. See, I don't know about music. I don't know what to call things. Anyway, so I remember one of them I wrote was called Lockdown Story. And I was like, oh wow, this is cool. It's a lockdown story. You might find it very boring because nothing really happened. Already see you yawning. Day one and I'm feeling so glum, no fun. And it's only just begun day two. How about you? I'm feeling so blue, what to do?
I really do.
And we performed this as well. Obviously I don't perform it anymore, but maybe if there's another lockdown,
bringing it back.
Exactly, lockdown 2, then we'll be going for it. So in the UK, I wasn't writing myself, but I was helping with some social media, and we actually did film we filmed a music video that never got put out actually. So that's in the archives that will come out one day, I'm sure.
Through the woodworks, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I was super inspired and I carried on writing, and during that time I was with my partner. We'd been together 10 years and I was processing a lot. I was just sat there thinking about my life. Weren't we all? That's what we were all doing.
A pause in time. Yeah, it was a beautiful gift. Difficult and challenging, but if accepted, I mean, look what came through, right?
Yeah, for sure. And just things would just keep coming up about my childhood and just these really painful memories, actually. And yeah, I really wasn't happy in my relationship. And actually during that time, you know, they banned alcohol, and me and my partner, it was the first time that he'd ever stopped drinking, and we'd stopped drinking together, and we were actually doing some yoga in the house, and it felt really good, you know. So it was kind of, oh, okay, this is good, this feels great. And so lockdown finished, and we went up north to Pai. Pai is like a hippie trippy town in the mountains, full of artists and musicians, and it just came back to life very suddenly, just after like one of the first lockdowns anyway. So we got up there, and it was like bars are open and the mushroom shakes are about, and, you know, just fell instantly kind of into old patterns. And I saw myself again abusing alcohol and going back to old ways that, you know, had always felt normal and fun, and that's how you meet people, and you stay out all late and you have like this really fun connection, and then the next day you feel like shit, but you do it all again anyway. And yeah, just in this cycle. And, you know, it was really hard on my relationship, and I was really unhappy. And I always thought for many years that wasn't what I wanted. I actually didn't want that, but I didn't know how to break out of the cycle of not drinking. I didn't know there was another way. So yeah, writing for me, one of the songs that I wrote was One Last Drink. And because I would always be like, yeah, one last drink. Where was I? Am I blabbing?
No, the reason that I started this podcast is to showcase extraordinary people in my life. And you are one of those people, Daisy. And so it's beautiful to get insight into the revelations that occurred. You know, where you were going, I think, was one last drink, but like being so tied to the familiarity of the cycle that you were in.
Yes.
So how do you release yourself from those chains in a way, right?
Yes.
And so when was a moment where you say would be a time where you actually gained the power? If the magnetic field is over here, you know, and it's pulling you in, you're tied night after night after night. How did you get away from that force? And
I remember being in a bar and having this riff. One last drink, she says. What does she mean? And I was like, one last drink, she says. What does she mean? What does she mean? Does she want to get clean? And then I was like, wow, okay. And just looking around, like, I don't want this. This isn't the life that I want. And so for me, music became, and songwriting became this really empowering feeling, and mantras in myself that I could sing to myself, that I would be driving around on my bike, and then I started going to these open mics in Pai and singing these songs as well. So I kind of had this creative outlet that was away from the bars and the drinking. I actually had a purpose. I had people to connect with, and you know, there was this other side. There was this more spiritual kind of hippie community that really, it wasn't always about the alcohol. There was more that we could connect in other ways.
Connection.
Yeah, and through music and through sharing. And I found myself in circles and in spaces and in ceremonies with a completely different crowd. And so, yeah, and I started having therapy at the same time as well. I met a beautiful woman called Sandia, and the Kopangan crew. I hadn't been down to Kopangan yet, but we were in Pai, and the Kopangan crew came up to Pai. So about 200 people just invaded at this tiny little village that, you know, had been in lockdown, and everyone kind of knew everyone, and suddenly there's these like magical fairies just like ecstatic dancing, and no one's drinking alcohol, and everyone's just hugging, and I'm like, who are these people, and why are they so happy, and what's tantra? And so I was really intrigued by this lifestyle, and yeah, so after a couple of months in Pai and having therapy and writing some songs, I arrived in Kopangan, and that's kind of when I met you. And at that same time, the end of my relationship of 10 years kind of came about, and it was kind of just as I met you. And me and my partner, he decided to go back to Pai. I was in Kopangan. I really wanted to explore Tantra and be free and, break the cycle. I was really done with that lifestyle, and having so many women around us, I felt like it was just like amazing. All these new faces and friendly, women just there to hold me, and it didn't feel scary. It felt really wonderful. And it wasn't a bad breakup at all. It was really fine, and we were friends, and it was just, it was okay, but it was still very challenging, you know, in many, many ways, because I had to meet myself again without, you know, this other half of me that I'd felt so connected to for many, many years. That was also a crutch for my attachments and my abandonment wounds and all this kind of stuff. So I really then had to look at myself, and again, music helped me see everything that I am, and you can see that in the songs that I write. That it's just an exploration of self, and these little things come to me usually when I'm in my darkest hour. These little phrases, these downloads, as you might call it. To speak and to share, and most of the time we're all feeling the same thing as well, or have experienced a similar feeling.
Same but different. You know, it's like what I feel when I listen to your music, and it was such a pleasure to be a part of your band for, you know, a snippet of time. We'll give a shout out to Josie. She was another warrior babe, another beautiful, wholesome, kind being who we all held each other through these major transitions of life, right? And so not only did you step away from your ex-partner, but you stepped away from the crutch of alcohol or drugs or anything that, you know, was there to forget about the pain, right? And so that's a huge transition, to really step away from all of that. And I feel really fortunate to have been on that journey with you and continue to be on that journey with you, because I think a bridge to healing is creative expression. Other facets that really, I think, can help is connection. So is community support, right?
Yes.
Which is felt immensely everywhere you go now. I think it sounds like, you know, you're a bit of a lighthouse, and you attract the beings that you need at any given time, right? Thank you for sharing. It's been a beautiful gift to watch your unfolding in this life. I remember the first time that I listened to your album, your more electronic album, because we were quite acoustic when we were together in our band, and it was a beautiful, I think, starting point. And you were very prolific. You already had like 9 or 10 songs, and it was just to get you on stage with a consistent, you know, band. And it was such a pleasure to be that band. And so then you moved into a more electronic, which for the Warrior Babes knew that this would happen, right? Like Daisy needs to like really, what would you say this style of music that you worked with your producer?
We are calling it like alternative, multi-genre pop.
Sure.
It has a flavor of everything. It's kind of synthy, it's dubby, it's got a bit of reggae, it's quite poppy as well, but it's very experimental. Shout out to Alessio, my producer. He usually does a lot of like tribal, organica house. He'd never really produced hip-hop before. Once we started making music together, we made Tantric Lover was the first song. We just went for it over 2 months. We made one song a week, and it was a really amazing experience. He put all of his time and energy into really creating these unique songs that held the words that could take the listener on a journey. And that's really what I was asking for. You know, this is not necessarily something that I can perform. Even the way that I would sing, I wouldn't necessarily sing these songs in this way. He kind of even directed me in some ways to be more aggressive, or, you know, we played with different, so some songs I'm very sing-songy and light, and then other ones I'm really hard. So it was just play. We were just messing around and playing, and we were having so much fun. And every time we'd make a new track, we'd be like, oh my god, this is amazing. And in our minds, like, even in his mind, he's like, this is amazing. We've created something really special, and we have. It hasn't really been listened to by many people. I haven't really, I lost a bit of,
The operative word is yet.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate how you expressed what the feel of the album is. And I think for me, like a journey, an emotional journey. I'll never forget, Daisy. We were over in Coma Beach. There's a cave.
We were in a cave. We listened to the album in a cave. I was going through a crisis. I lived in a cave for like a day.
A whole 24-hour period. She saw a snake and had to run, yeah? And it's like, what a gift, though, because for me, like, how do you put this into words? But how do you hold such intense lyrics? You need to put people to go through a journey. And I think that what Alessio did and provided from a producer kind of sound approach really is a journey. It's trippy, it's wild, it's intense, it's light, it's beautiful, it's the full spectrum of being. And that's also why I feel like your music is just a bridge to healing, because whenever we can step into what is, I think it's the sooner we can meet ourselves, which obviously it sounds like that happened for you in COVID. And will continue to happen throughout the course of time. You know, we will never discover ourselves so fully. I think it's an ongoing, lifelong journey, and I'm excited to be in this space-time continuum with you to witness that. And so, yeah, we'll definitely leave this in the footnotes where you can find Daisy, because it's going to be it's going to blow your mind. And yeah, you're a very, very inspiring person. And so what's next? I know you're jumping on a plane tomorrow to India. What is life looking like? What is your current passion? You know, is there anything that you really would like to share with our listeners today?
I feel like I've been kept very safe. Life is very simple and easy in Thailand. We have everything we need right here, and we're very privileged and very fortunate to be living the lives that we are. I'm heading to India, so it's going to be a complete opposite, complete contrast to Thailand, I feel, in the culture, in the people. Yeah, I want to be inspired. I want to immerse myself in a completely new environment. And, you know, it's the next step on my spiritual journey. I feel many people that I'm around here are influenced by, of course, the spirituality of India, you know. I want to see that in real terms, you know, not the kind of the wrapped up version that's kind of, you know, the crystallized Kopangan version, you know. I kind of want to go and see the
real life front lines of it.
Yeah. I want to immerse myself. I want to continue my spiritual journey. I want to be surrounded by music, and really learn more, do yoga, do meditation, who knows, and meet some interesting characters and have my system shook a little bit, and then that's kind of that's the plan, and be inspired.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm really excited for you. And I think, you know, what I'm hearing, you know, is having our system shook is such a gift, right? I think the magic really starts to unfold when we accept a shake in the, like a bit of a glitch in the system, a shake from what is normal, because it's easy to get comfortable, it's easy to get complacent, it's easy to just kind of accept and become a bit passive in life. And I don't see that with you. And something that I was, you know, perhaps going to bring up too is just this idea of evolution, self-evolution, you know, death, rebirth, which of course your music depicts very well, right? Like, we cannot be compressed into a box as humans, you know, and we are full spectrum beings, and meeting every corner, every hallway, every, you know, out into the expanse of every aspect of us is a big deal, and it's terrifying and it's beautiful. But what keeps you going, right? There's got to be some highs, there's got to be some lows. Something that I struggle with, let me bring it back this way, is kind of, it's such a gift to be alive. But how can this be made more accessible, for sure? As well as how, on an individual basis, whenever we're met with lows, depression, anxiety, these like meeting ourselves, how do you get back up to being like, it sounds like through creation, you've expressed that through music. But yeah, if you're open to kind of sharing a little bit more about that process, because for me, my friends, my community, people that I authentically connect with, like we all meet these lows, right? I think it's just a common human fact. And so, yeah, I think also on the outside, you look like quite a powerhouse, right? Like you're creating, you're doing songs, you're performing, you're traveling, you're this, you're that. But if we could get a bit more insight into, your internal cosmos, if you're open to sharing.
Whew, that's deep. I love the way that you speak, Sarah. You're so fully rounded and eloquent in what you say. I'm not sure if I have the same depth to my...
If I can interject and not be self-deprecating, because my moment was like, no, but I will say thank you. I'm going to accept that compliment because we're trying to create a new earth is really what I'm hearing here, right? And so thank you for that compliment. I would absolutely say the same thing about you, Daisy. You're very well spoken. You're a powerhouse woman. You're here to encourage change and be a bridge for people to get there. And I see that through your music. Solely just as a human being, it's beautiful that you have a platform with music, but even to connect with people. You're very kind, you're very welcoming, you're very honest, and we've connected deeply about anxiety, depression, what it's like to be in these human forms, right? And what a bit of a cosmic joke it is to try to be well all the time. And like, that's an illusion. We cannot be well all the time. Everything is impermanent, including states of bliss and states of pain. So yeah, like everything aside, like you did. How do you say get rid of your mind?
I don't have to. For me, this is part of me. This is me sharing my vulnerability, my self-doubt. It's always there, this disbelief that I am worthy, and that's okay. For me as well, I'm realizing, yes, I can speak. As sometimes the creation of songs helps me to really put into context what it is that I am experiencing, because I have a deep desire to be seen and to be heard, and we all do. So for me, that is why, and what has helped me most is having this space to really cultivate a piece of art that can be seen and heard and understood, and okay, that's what Daisy's experiencing. Because I didn't have that for many years. I didn't have an outlet to feel seen and heard, especially in my darkest days. My pain comes from deep trauma. That's why I was at such a low point in my life for many, many, many years. I'd like to speak about my trauma. And I do speak about my trauma and what I've been through. On my album, I have a song called Suicide. My dad committed suicide when I was 5 years old, and I'm sure he must have suffered with severe mental health and drug addiction. He was at the end of his life, he was a heroin addict, but he was also an amazing human, amazing musician. He played the saxophone, he played the double keyboard. We were surrounded by musicians and party people. I grew up in the party from day dot. My parents had a vintage clothes shop in Cardiff, and I was literally there in the shop, just like rocking out with all these cool people. There was, all the ravers would come into the shop to find out where the party was going to be that night. I was a baby raver from day dot. So I already experienced that my whole life. I knew what drugs and alcohol and sex, I was surrounded by, a lot of that. But I feel like this is the path that my soul chose to experience. I already understand, you know, sexuality and addiction and hedonism, and I already know what that feels like. But now I want to experience another way of being, which is softer. So for me, this high level of, you know, kind of life, I don't want that. I don't want the crazy. I don't need the party. I don't need the I want reality, like the real love, you know. And I'm experiencing that in so many ways, and through tantra, and through being surrounded with people who understand that as well. Like just love and touch and intimacy and talking and sharing and just being really accepting of each other. It breaks down all of the barriers, because, you know, that's what we all genuinely need, is to feel heard and to be loved. That's it.
I love you, Daisy.
Oh, babe.
And for the viewers that can't see, you know, like the motion that you did was to hug yourself, right? To feel held, to feel seen. It's so, it's the most valuable thing on this planet, in this space-time continuum, right?
Yeah, and I felt so sexualized my whole life, but also longing for love, craving this. I wanted to know what I wanted drugs, I wanted sex from a young age. I really wanted to experience that. And now I have experienced that. I know that there's other ways that we can, like, what is that? Why do we want that? Like, it's coming from a natural place. Like, and for many years I felt so much shame. I felt shame around being sexual. Like, there must be something wrong with me. Why am I attached to these people? Why am I falling in love? Like, what's wrong with me? Oh, maybe it's from the trauma, you know, abandonment, blah, blah, blah. No, it's natural. We are sexual beings. It's completely natural. Like, and that's where it's all going wrong for so many people, because we are trying to navigate between the extremes of feeling, oh, we can do what we want and free, like, have sex with whoever we want, and it doesn't really mean anything, to then the shame around wanting to be sexual. But actually, yes, it's natural, but sex is so powerful. And when I'm talking about intimacy and connection, I'm not necessarily talking about this idea of penetrative sex. I'm talking about just when you take away this idea that if I touch you and want to be intimate with you, I want to have sex with you. That's not the case. It's actually just a real natural human connection. And the idea of the physical act of sex is the most sacred union that someone can have, and it should be respected and really cherished and cultivated and manifested and just into the most divine connection. And that is where I'm at with my sexuality now, is really honing in on this, like, feeling of oneness, you know, of being safe, feeling so safe with the other that, you know, it's not going to bring more trauma. You're not going to hurt each other anymore. It's just going to be this bountiful connection that's going to bring joy. Because, I'm coming back to who I am and trying to figure out how I want to be and how I want to connect with people. And I have had I've had two experiences. One where I'm cultivating this magical tantric love story that's been going on for a year and a half, and it's finally coming into fruition now of this magical sex that I really wanted, but it's taken a year and a half to get there. You know, we've worked through all of this trauma. I leave and I come back and I'm changed and I'm evolving. But during that time I have connected with someone else, and it was that I needed to remind myself of that real, you know, when you meet someone and you just fuck and it's amazing, but then suddenly, oh my God, like it's this, it brought back all of this pain. and it was disgusting. And it was, to see that again and to, wow, that's not how I want to connect. There needs to be so much trust there, and I'm learning all of these things. We have this as well, RBDSM. You can have these conversations, relationships, boundaries, desires, having these conversations, like that's normal. Like no one taught us how to be in school. No one really taught us how to connect, and that it was okay to feel things and feel sensual. It was shame or experimentation. You kind of got this pop culture of like, be sexy, be this, girl power, like, I was dressing like a slut at like 11 years old, 7 years old, I don't know. I had and I felt empowered. I wanted to be sexy, but it wasn't natural, really. It was just pop culture at the time.
And like influences, right? The influences in our lives. And I think coming from a rather dysfunctional society, right? Yes. To put it lightly, where religion is really at the forefront, and so with religion, premarital sex is a sin, for example. Homosexual sex is a sin, blah, blah, blah. All these stories that people are tying to. And if you don't follow according to, these commandments or whatever, then you're wrong, right? So there's, I think, a huge sense of like separation, loneliness, isolation. And with that comes a lot of pain. So, I hear you. I hear what you're saying with your journey. It's very common. I think like we were born in the late 80s, and I often think with humans, we're just a bunch of guinea pigs trying our best. There's no blame, there's no this, but we are here to evolve and break cycles. And given your upbringing in a quite a unique, eccentric house where you were exposed to this lifestyle.
I was very free to express myself. So it was just
There's no textbook for life. But the longer that I'm on this planet, the more I'm seeing like connection gives permission, right? So if I can just quote like a lyric from one of my songs, like separation is an illusion leading beings to confusion. I for illness, we for wellness, let's unite, right? So it's like if we can actually come together and see each other and talk about the reality of our dysfunctional society, rather than in some ways like rebelling, like I'm going to wear this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have sex and just feel a lot of pain through all of these experiences, right? It's tragic. And so, lucky for you, you found music, you found sobriety, you found a community, you found connection, you found a therapist, all coming from a huge state of privilege, I will say, right? But now that you are where you are with the stories that make up your life, your history, your specific history, and the things that make you passionate about what you are actually passionate about can then create a bridge to wellness for other people. Always going back to your songs, but by listening to your song, I naturally feel less alone in this world. And so, I've heard you also say like oneness, unity, right? So it's like back to that magnetism analogy. If you're spiraling in a world of pain and addiction and disconnection, it's hard to get out of that. But once you leave it, there's a middle zone until you get to a full fire, true essence, like beauty, magic, manifesting queen that you are. And again, nothing's permanent, you're in and out. But I think the beauty of being in that space of fire, essence, true self, the only way we can get there is through the pain, right? And that's a very difficult thing to accept. It's been difficult for me, and to see like the loved ones in my life that have had to experience what they experience, and like also to learn compassion and forgiveness for the things that have happened over the course of time, and the reality that yes, this is how we were brought up, and there were many things that if I could sit here and write it, it wouldn't go down that way with my children, blah, blah, blah. It's, hindsight is 20/20. It's very easy to sit here and say, I would have done things differently or this or that. It's made us to who we are. And you shared a lot of really vulnerable things there, right? That have clearly, I think, sent you on a trajectory in your own direction. your father's pain and suffering in this world, and his choice to leave it. It's the devastating reality, right? Suicide is on the rise, especially I think since COVID, the rates have gone up. People are feeling more and more alone. One could argue that, much of society and social media and culture, there's these expectations and ideas of norms that people just can't meet and that aren't in fact real, but it's an image of realness that people are trying to achieve. But in the end, they're just on autopilot. They're a pawn trying to create something that they want, but they don't even know, right? And I think that also is fueling a lot of pain in the world. And yeah, I mean, it's very sad. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to start this podcast, right? I want to create a global community for people to know that you're not alone. Life is everything, and nothing all at once. It's like I said earlier, I mean, it's beautiful, it's magical, it's silly, it's playful, it's tragic, it's painful. And I think according to this dysfunctional society image, it's this. You see this box? That's what life is. You work 9 to 5, you work for your retirement, you buy a house, white picket fence, you get kids, you do this, you do that, you tick a box off, right? You're very human doing in that instance rather than human being. And I'm not implying there's anything wrong with that. If it's evaluated and consciously chosen, many of my dear friends and beautiful people are expressing themselves through these forms of lifestyles. But for it to be an expectation of a human being and then for you to feel wrong if you don't achieve that, I think is a huge source of pain in the world. And so by highlighting people like you and other people that I'll have on in the coming weeks, I think it's such an opportunity to see that you can live life in a different way. You can land into your own essence and create a new lens. Like that awareness is there. Life is weird, right? Who are we? How are we here? I'm 34 years old, Sarah Benoit, born in, rural Nova Scotia. Like, how did that come to be? And I have many stories associated with my identity, but it doesn't have to be fixed. And I think part of the problem too is this kind of pushing and forceful nature of like, I am this, period. And something that I've seen in your life is that you don't seem, anyway, I don't want to make assumptions, but you don't seem tied to a fixed identity. Yes, you're Daisy Green, and it's a great tagline. It's great, it's beautiful, and it's also beautiful to be playful and comedic in life. But I think what I see is you're open to letting go things that no longer serve you, right?
Yeah, really. But that's part of the awakening, and that's happened very recently, but it's happening quickly. I remember just looking in the mirror and just being so fed up of trying to be something, to be someone, to care so much about what I looked like, and to have to not love who I saw in the mirror. So I had to do a lot of work. You shaved my head. You shaved my hair off, and that was part of the letting go of who I was. Oh, it's exhausting. It really is, trying so hard and caring so much.
And for what? Right? Right? And this is like, I'm holding everyone tenderly who's listening here, because if you can't resonate with this, I'd be very surprised, right? Like it's okay to admit that life can be exhausting. Fitting into a box or expectations and meeting a certain status quo, which is a construct of how we should exist, is absolutely exhausting. And it's debilitating to like the actual magical nature that we are. We are not here to be compressed in a box. We are here, life is weird, the technological revolution, there's a lot going on, there's war and violence and pain and separation, and in a world filled with these things, to create your own reality and share and empower other people through music, creation, connection, I think is vital. given the ecological crisis, I mean, we could go on about so many things, but it's really dire. I mean, it's silly to, the work is hard. The work is hard. I hear you in that. I feel that. I've experientially learned that and continue to learn it all the time. But the alternative of breathing air and just being here is harder because you let go of whatever that essence is in you to just survive and breathe air. And, the best way I can explain it is to be some form of a pawn, be, on autopilot with the odd check-in, and then, oh, no, it's still too painful, so you check out perhaps again too. And I would really love to hear, if anyone resonates with what we're saying. No two people have the same story. I'm not applying that in any way. But, if you want to drop us a little voice note, a message, a text, we'll share an email here. And we're just, it's a call to expression. It's a call to vulnerability, authenticity, and showing up to be an active participant in this life.
And creating spaces to talk openly. I think, for me, something I feel so privileged that I've been able to experience healing and have a therapist and, many healing modalities, workshops, like this is what Kopangan is, full of these shadow work and tantra, and I love that. It's really changed my life, but it makes me sad that most people do not have access to this. And this is one thing that affected, that I saw when I went back to the UK, was many of my friends on antidepressants or really on a long waiting list just to get therapy from the NHS. How do we make therapy or any mode of healing more accessible? That's what I want to know. And really at the heart of it, we all can be healers. We're all here to help each other. We are magical beings. We really are. And I know that obviously there's training that goes into to being a therapist, and obviously we should have a background in trauma. You know what? Just caring about each other, and really creating spaces to talk. And women do that. That's the thing. Women do that. We really do. But do men do that as much? I want to. For me, I'm feeling called to help men in some ways. I have a couple of guy friends from the UK who message me quite regularly, and it's kind of like they're awakening but feeling so alone and so lost in the world, and not knowing where to go or what to do with these feelings of it's not okay, I don't feel okay, something's wrong. Okay, well, what like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, I don't know what advice to give anyone, because I'm coming from a completely different standpoint, from my privilege, but I can relate to this because of my father and what he's experienced and my depression that came from that. And I see, wow, if I hadn't, been fortunate to have all the healing that I have had, which has been from a result of his passing, and having the money that was left from him to me to live the life that I do, I would probably be dead. And my mum said that she thought on many times when I was very young that I wouldn't be here because I was so fucked, I was so broken. So how do we create a world where we can all support each other and we can all thrive and we can all show up as we're supposed to be? Because we're not all the same, we're all different, but we all have something within us. And if we're all allowed to just explore and experiment and be, it's just is it a dream? Is this real? How? This is what I'm asking. And we're talking about the idea of the dream of living in a white picket fence, but actually most people are living in a home with a wife and 2 kids. Most people don't even have that dream. Most people are just trying to survive. Most people aren't even living. How can you, that's like the root chakra, this is just the fundamentals of security. Mm-hmm. How can you elevate to, love and compassion and, connection when you're just trying to fucking look after yourself and look after your kids, and life is fucking difficult out there. I don't think I would be able to survive. I don't, I feel,
Thank you.
I feel.
Yes, you feel. Yeah, I feel also. And, I don't have the answers to that. And I want to create a new earth. I want to be part of a movement. Not everyone needs the same thing, but everyone, at very least, I know, absolutely needs connection, right? So using the example with your friends in the UK who are waking up to new sides of themselves and perhaps don't have the community, like you mentioned. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to do, right? I think being present and allowing and witnessing those people, I know that, again, they're tied, directly to you. And it's the same for me being a support system to my friends. But spreading this throughout, at very least, I think we can begin, because we can't depend on a movement through like the government and big changes, that where poof, oh yeah, all of a sudden, counseling is free and access to mental health care and a new approach, stepping away from the medical model and actually approaching people as full spectrum beings, looking at biology, psychology, cultures, society, their relationships. We can't be compressed into, oh, you have a chemical imbalance, so here's a medication that also potentially could be fueled by like pharmaceutical companies, right? Like that's a whole conversation separate to this, but we are in a society that's like running in a very dysfunctional fashion. And I think pushing for change in the next decade or two, the best opportunity that we have is individual change, right? Butterfly effect. So especially if we have platforms through podcasts, music, and also just talking about it, bringing it to the forefront. We don't want to be silenced anymore. We are here to be awake and to be magical beings that we are. I mean, yes, we forget about it, but we're on planet Earth in the solar system, which is connected to galaxies into like infinite nature. Like, think about that. All of this is miraculous. We can grow babies from cells. There's life all around us. And yes, there's destruction and death, and that's synonymous with life, right? And I mean, really, I think we need to remember our power. We need to remember our magic, and we need to remember that we come from a collective. Because I hear it with the way you're speaking. Please correct me if I'm wrong. We're all different. We're all unique. Echoing what you said, we're all different. We're all unique, but there's something that we have that's the same, right? So, if I can put in my 2 cents with this, I believe that we are divinely connected, right? Through this collective consciousness. And whenever we wake up to our true essence, I'm you and you're me, right? And I'm that tree and we're everything and we are connected. And so, but there's a huge force for individuality, and individuality can also come with pain. But finding that middle way, right? That's Taoist way, like really connecting and having a sense of individuality. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not letting the pendulum swing to the extreme, right? So reducing extremes, staying connected, really harnessing truth and creating a community somehow that you trust people, that you love them, you respect them, you admire them, you hold them in their pain, you see them, and that is beauty, right? Like authenticity. I remember, I will give a shout out to Noonie here, because one of my biggest healing journey moments was showing genuine emotion to another person. So breaking down and crying, or we won't even say crying, even just shedding a tear, or like a bit of a weight on my throat or this kind of discontentment in my body, like, or just not even able to cry. And I remember Noonie being like, Sarah, you are so beautiful. It's so beautiful to see you express truly. Because historically, you know, I'm a people pleaser, I'm an accommodator, and that's okay, right? We are raised in environments that we then interpret, okay, this is how I need to be, and it's a survival tactic. And hold ourselves compassionately and forgivingly to that reality. But I think understanding now as autonomous beings, adults, you know, that we can rewire, we can decondition these things and step away from the idea that no, you cannot express anger, you cannot express sadness, you cannot express anything but joy. And Noonie was a beautiful, beautiful being to dismantle that story, or at least be the first person to take a hammer to it slowly. And it's gently still, it's still there, and it's okay that it's still there, that, you know, these parts of me are afraid of expressing emotion, and I need to feel deep trust to do that. And it's a journey. But I think learning to step into new avenues of trust where we can completely show up in our truth, like this podcast, for example, right? By us expressing our truth, I really hope to hear from people, you know, and I hope that this inspires you to maybe have a conversation with a good friend of yours that perhaps it was maybe a bit more superficial, or there was an inability to really say, like, I'm, you know, I had a really bad day. This upset me. I was crying earlier. You know, it's not everything is peachy keen, you know, like when someone asks you, how are you, right? Oh, I'm good. I remember answering that when I used to live in Toronto. I was a labor and delivery nurse. I'd go to work and I was just bubbly and running on fumes, you know. How are you, Sarah? Great, man. Thanks. How are you? Like, inside, just not great at all, you know? So it's like, how do we create this new earth? I think we have to do it individually. I think we have to see it within ourselves. And once we see it within ourselves, we have to learn to use our discernment of people around us and see who we can trust.
Yes, exactly.
And nurture those relationships, right? So those friends in the UK, my friends back home, anyone, they know they can rely on us. But then who else can they rely on? Test the waters. And I think the common ground of us always having that essence within us, if we can pull back all the layers of conditioning and pain and expectation and all of these things, if we can pull that back and get to our essence, then I also think that other person will also want to connect in that way eventually. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe not in the next 5 years, maybe not, you know, but there are people out there that want this, that are seeking this. Those are the people that are on wait lists, you know, for the NHS or, they're out there. We're out there.
It's happening.
It is happening.
Wow. That's deep.
Daisy, I love you.
I love you.
Wow, it's really been quite a profound conversation here with you today, Daisy, and I think perhaps it's a beautiful opportunity to kind of bring things to a close. I will ask you a final question, but if there's anything else before that you want to share, you want to, you know, any final thoughts, what do you think?
For me, I was just thinking about the opposite, that I was very hyper emotional and hypersensitive, actually.
Thank you.
Always crying about something, you know.
Yes. I don't know, actually, but I'm learning to know.
Yeah. It's funny, to come from life at a very different angles. So for me, the music, again, bringing it back to that, has been a way for me to hone my emotional, because I'm a very emotional, expressive person, but now I'm learning to hold it, not to hold it, but to be with it and to sit with it and transmute the fucking pain into art, into creation, into music. Like, that's what we should be doing, you know? So I want to just, to anyone out there who has any feeling whatsoever.
Anyone, does anyone resonate?
Just for a moment, sit with this feeling, any feeling that you have, and see if a little spark of inspiration comes to you. And it could be anything at all. It could be a word, it could be an image, but
it could be a sensation, it could be what you feel in your body.
Yeah, but just to actually, listen, not react. You don't have to be reactive.
There's no fixing here.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong.
No.
Just witnessing, observing.
Yeah. And then maybe if you feel to create something, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And if you feel to cry and really land in your body, I'm taking a master's in counseling psychology at the moment to become a therapist.
Wow.
And it's been extremely, what a journey. Human psychology, the psyche, the mind, the society that we live in combination with being a human, it's a journey, it's a ride, right? And I want to help people help themselves. And somatic experiencing is a form of therapy, which really, I'm sure you're familiar with, Daisy, but I'll share in case, somatic experiencing is about being physical beings. And so, yes, we experience emotion and feelings and thoughts. But if we're, say, a bit dissociated or activated or reacting, then most people don't even feel grounded enough to fully be in their body. But somatic experiencing and other forms of therapy really encourage this, right? For us to take a moment, get into a meditative state. I'm not implying, sit down and meditate, because it can be really challenging. But literally, no stimulation in a room, sitting down comfortably, connecting with your breath and seeing what is. And there's going to be many thoughts. Welcome to being human. It's okay. It's just learning to not pick them up and feed them.
Yes.
So observing those thoughts, and then once you kind of calm your nervous system even slightly, you can then land in your body. And maybe it's been a week since you've been there, or a decade, or your first time that you can acknowledge. But it's also sitting in that reality, landing. What do you feel in your body? Where do you feel it? Like Daisy said, right? Is there an image or, a sensation or a color or a temperature associated with that? And getting to know ourselves and putting, instead of necessarily, mental energy, feeding thoughts, feeding intellect, feeding this, we can really nurture our bodies, right?
I feel that. I remember when I first started my therapy, and I was so sad. I was so where I felt it here in my heart. So much sadness here. I felt heartbroken, really, and I've been carrying that around for 30 years. It was so painful, and now I feel lighter. I feel free. Yeah, it's really beautiful. But yes, you can feel where the pain is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because what are we but energy anyway?
Exactly.
Right? So it's like if you look at it.
Okay.
We're not leaving yet. We got some things to talk about here.
I thought we're winding down now, right?
It's the first podcast. We're trying our best here. Energy really should be energy and motion, right? Energy, like it should be moving. I don't like using that word, but nothing is stagnant. Nothing is permanent. It's the nature of reality, the nature of the universe. So to think that, let's use a beautiful 2-year-old baby as an example, right? 1-year-old, 2-year-old, they are just existing. When they're hungry, when they're tired, they're crying, they're upset, they're really happy, they're expressive. Whatever is alive in that being, you see, you feel, And if there's a sense of allowance and permission, they will exist very, very up and down, all around, yeah? And so humans, on the other hand, whenever a devastating or even upsetting or difficult episode happens, if we don't actually feel that feeling, and instead, I need to be happy right now, or I don't have time to deal with the tragedy of this, or I don't have time, right? Or like me, you're conditioned to not go there and not feel that, then that energy doesn't have the opportunity to release itself back into the ether, this, away from your field. So it's like it gets housed, you felt it in your heart. I can imagine, given your history, your upbringing, the loss of your father, a lot of pain, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of confusion, and that may, for you, have been harnessed like all in your heart, right? So it's a beautiful example of really kind of tapping into all the different parts in our body slowly and being patient, because it's not like, oh, I feel this, it takes time, and it often sometimes takes a friend or a practitioner or a lot of just energy, like time and space and stillness to actually land in that, right? But a question that I want to bring to the podcast, because I care deeply about the guests that I'll have on, and I want them to have a voice out into our listeners here. So if you could give a final thought, idea, message that you would like to leave us all with today, what would that be, Days?
Sit with the feelings. Yeah. Be with the pain. Create something. And then connect with someone and share. That's it.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for sitting with me and creating and connecting.
That's what we're here for.
I love you deeply. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And congratulations on this wonderful podcast. You are a great host, and I'm really excited for your future in psychology, and you're gonna help so many people. You really are. You already are. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And, for the first comment there, it's easy when you have beautiful guests. So, thank you for your presence and your time. And I really want to showcase you here. So the last question, which is, just kidding, right? Another question. But where can we find you? This is
God, we haven't even really spoken about the song Tantric Lover. Yeah, my debut song and music video. There's a music video. I should have said this first of all. It's 50 beautiful women. It was filmed in Koh Phangan. It's called Tantric Lover. It's my ode to the tantric man that I want to invite into my life, or not even man, whoever. We're all Shiva Shakti intertwined, masculine and feminine together. Maybe it's an ode to myself, yeah. So the first song off my album Tantric Lover is there, and the rest of the album is on Spotify. It's on all of the platforms. Just find Daisy Green, Tantric Lover, and my album's called Shadow Shame as well. I should probably condense this little promo version. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go.
All the platforms,
yeah,
Daisy Green.
There we go.
You magnificent queen.
Daisy Green Music on Instagram as well. Oh, see, I hate this promo. Oh, it's dirty, isn't it?
It's not. Yeah. People need to find you, babe. It's the society and the dysfunction in that. It's not you. Remember our conversation.
Yes.
And lucky for us, we've recorded it if we ever need a reminder. So until next time, my friend, I love you.
I love you.
I'll be a tantric lover.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening. I truly hope that today's conversation was valuable to you. To learn more about today's guests, including links and resources related to everything discussed today, visit the episode page at soulplaycollective.com. I'm so grateful you're here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. So don't be shy. Send in your comments and let us know how each episode is resonating with you. If you'd like to support the podcast, the easiest and most impactful thing you can do is to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube, and leave a review and/or comment. Sharing the show or your favorite episodes with friends or on social media is fantastic and super appreciated. And finally, for podcast updates, please follow us on Instagram at soulplay.collective and at Soulplay Collective on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate the love and support. See you back here soon.
And emotional distress. If we can communicate what we want and how we feel, if we can take some time to breathe, we will find out what is real. If we can play and pray and dance together, just ask questions and listen to the answers. I like to be the feminine, but I can be the dom. I like to tie you up, cause you know that I am strong. We can play with power and domination. We can find out what we're into, maybe BDSM. I am not yours, you are not mine, but I know who you are by a human design. This may not last forever, but we can connect, having honest discussions so open and direct. So open and direct. So open and direct. Cause my life force energy is coming into motion. And I never wear my shoes, always barefoot in nature. Just a grain of sand in this vast universe. I'm learning how to love and I'm learning how to serve. I'm humble, the embodiment of grace. I'm potent, you can see it in my face. I manifest all of my hopes and all my dreams. They're coming true, and I cannot quite believe. I got this primal urge to connect with the earth. I've been living with this shame for so many years. My body and soul waiting for this rebirth. I've had too many lovers trying to flatten the curve. I'm a lover, not a hater, and I'm here to speak my truth. A self-projector projector, yes, I'm having a breakthrough. Cause I'm learning about myself, spirituality and health. Bitcoin filling up my pocket and it's adding to my wealth. It's adding to my wealth. It's adding to my wealth. I'll be a tantric lover. I'll be a tantric